Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jonathan Bass. I handle some of the marketing over here at RevenueWell, and I am thrilled today for our Practice Perfect webinar. Buckle up, it's going to be a good one. We are here with two, I think the best way to say it is Renaissance men. Amol Nirgudkar. Amol is the CEO of Patient Prism. He founded it in 2015. It's an excellent software that helps you with your phone calls and make sure you can get new patients and really just optimize the way the operations in your practice. And then on the other side is RevenueWell founder Alex Nudel. I could probably wax poetic for an hour about Alex, but why should I talk when he's sitting right here? So before I hand it over, I will say we are going to do a Q&A at the end of this webinar, so please send in all your questions. We've already fielded some. We're going to get through as much as time allows. I don't think we have a hard stop. So without further ado, Amol, I'll hand it over to you, and gentlemen, have a good webinar.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Alex, for hosting me this morning. I'm truly excited to share our insight into call intelligence and the way we handle patients on the phone call. And really, Alex, I'll let you start, kick this off, and I'm truly excited. I really am. There was a lot to talk about that as it relates to the phone, and we're gonna make sure that our audience today walks away with a lot of good tips that they can implement in their practice right away. And if they need obviously any more help, we're obviously there afterwards as well to give them some insights that we have learned over 2 million phone calls in the last 3 years on what they can do to solve some of the basic problems that prevent patients from booking that appointment. That's what we need. We need new patients. We need them to come in. So truly excited about this. Alex, I'll let you say a few words and we'll get going.
Thanks, Amol, and thank you, Jonathan. Typically, I don't interact with our Practice Perfect webinars. We have our partners and affiliates and everybody else go on and tell their story, but today this is very exciting to me, and I wanted to let our audience know, our customers, that I truly endorse your product. And how do I really know what's going on? And you and I met a little while ago. You came out to me, we sat down. Right away, I scheduled a trip over to Tampa, where you guys are located. I came to your office to see what really is going on there. I saw a very large staff, a huge training facility. I have met some of the really incredible people that have been in dentistry forever, that know the regular single owner practice, that know the DSO space. Like you said, you fielded about 2 million phone calls. We've spent about $30 million in marketing for practices over the last 20 years. And we know the value of getting patients to call us, but there's a lot more value in finding out what went right and what went wrong. And a lot of times when even I speak and you speak, we look back and say, well, I wish I could have said this, and I wish I could have said that. And maybe I wasn't thinking of things because I had a million things going on at the same time, and this phone call came in, and this patient is talking to us, but we're really not thinking about exactly why. So this is why I'm so excited about what you guys are doing, and I'm just looking forward to this. And forgive me if I interrupt in little pieces here to make sure that it's clear on what we're talking about. So Amol, please take it away.
Well, thank you for this generous introduction, and thank you for attending this webinar. I really want to start off with one of the key things that we've learned over the last 3 years, and what prevents patients from going to the next step, which is not patients, rather callers, right? We have lots of callers coming in from all sorts of directions, and some of the big questions that seem to kind of prevent them from taking the next step. And the next step is what? Booking an appointment, right? And the 3 of the top questions that we're going to address today in the webinar is is, do you take my insurance, right? A patient will ask this sometimes right off the bat because obviously they're concerned with pricing. How much will it cost? Obviously is a big factor. And then do you have anything sooner? When the patient has made that decision to call a dental office, they want to get in as soon as possible. So those are the top 3 things that we've seen. We've seen hundreds of different scenarios, but I'm going to address in this webinar these top 3 things that prevent them from moving forward. Really, what is the cost of hello, right? We're looking at dentistry that's changing significantly over the last 3 decades. We are able to do more for our patients today than we ever did. And we're able to also charge them more. I mean, we're doing implants, we're doing ortho, we're doing TMJ, we're doing lots of new things, and the value of the patient is really growing as the industry evolves into a more integrated industry where there is more connection between oral health and dental health. I looked at the ADA, and these numbers I believe are a little more conservative. I think Alex would agree with that. The ADA says the median average annual patient will spend about $654, and about 270 new patients are seeking appointment dental economics says per zip code per month. So we're talking about a big dollar number. That this number is really small, I believe, especially if you are doing anything above and beyond normal dentistry, which I think most practices are engaged in. Any kind of cosmetic work, if you do implants and ortho, the value of this is even more. So the point is, the value of each patient today is close to $1,000 to $1,200 in a normal practice, because that's what usually the insurance will pay. And but if you're doing implants, if you're doing ortho, that could be upwards of $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. And then, right? What do you think, Alex?
Well, just like you said, there's a term in dentistry called bread and butter. So if we're just doing bread and butter dentistry, composites, restorations, a bridge here and there, yes, those numbers are very believable. What we're actually seeing is that on average, people are spending twice their insurance. So if they have $1,000, they will spend $2 because of co-payments. If they have $1,500, they will spend $3 because of the additional stuff, like you said, sleep apnea, TMJ, cosmetic stuff. These are all $3,000 and above. I mean, you place 2 implants and it's 10 grand. So yes, we're seeing a lot more.
And the patient not only comes in, the lifetime value of the patient is obviously, we've seen ranges between $25,000 and $50,000, plus the value they bring by referring their friends and family. So you can't really look at a value of a patient in terms of what they need on that phone call, but overall what they're going to need when they come into your office over the course of their life, and the value of the friends and family and everybody that comes into the office. Huge value. And huge potential. So we want to make sure that we understand that value. So every patient that calls into our office is treated that, man, this could be a big opportunity for our office to meet our goals, whatever they might be.
Also, Amol, I will tell you one other thing, that the ADA says for every year a patient does not go to the dentist, just add $1,500 to the bill. So it's not unlikely where we start going after patients, and you'll get somebody that hasn't been to a dentist for 10 years that has a minimum of $15,000 worth of work to do. We see it all the time in offices.
Absolutely. And, it brings to this really important quote that Ryan, a buddy of mine, said, and I love that quote, so I put it on my thing, is we've got to stop treating the phone like a utility. It's actually a profit center. And it really is, right? Linda Miles, as you know Linda Miles really well, one of the premier consultants out there. And from the 70s onwards, she used to say, the phone is the most important instrument in your practice. And it is, right? Because if we can't get these patients in the door, right, then all the amazingness that we have, the team, the assistants, the hygienist, the doctor, the experience, they don't get to feel that experience if they can't come in the door. So the phone is an important instrument, even more than an intraoral camera. Was something Linda said 30 years ago. It's so opportune because we've got to pay attention to it, and think about it not as a utility, but something that brings in the right type of patients and brings in profits into our office.
I agree.
Perfect. So we're gonna talk about some important questions that we need to ask as dental practices. Is obviously everybody is worried about new patients. How do we increase new patient calls? No longer we can be in an era where we can depend on our existing book of business, right? We need new patients. They're the lifeblood of a practice. Obviously, we need to make sure our existing patients are coming in and accepting treatment. But we do need to figure out a way to increase new patient calls. That's one of the big million-dollar questions. The second question that we look at a lot is when they do call you, are they booking that appointment? And if not, why not? And it's not as simple as figuring out, oh, did they book or not? But we want to understand in detail of what prevented them from making that appointment. And we'll discuss this later in the webinar on what we do to look so deep into the conversation about at what point did the patient decide to stop pursuing the pursuit of an appointment. So really important to understand why they're not booking. And then from a marketing standpoint, as you know, Alex, the importance of marketing is huge today in an era of consolidating dentistry, in an era where competition is rising. We want to know, and as we're spending more money on marketing too, dentists today are spending more money on all forms of marketing than ever before, and we want to know what's driving the patients, what exactly is driving the right type of patients into our practice, and we need to have visibility on that. If we don't, then we're wasting sometimes our money on things that may not work. They sound well, but they not work. So these are some of the questions that we need to ask ourselves right off the bat, especially when it comes to getting new patient phone calls, understanding where they come from, and understanding what is working in our marketing department.
Amol, typically a company like myself, like yourself, and you're talking about the HubSpots of the world, they spend millions and millions of dollars a year to understand what is going on. And for the last 25, 30 years, I know first of all, I know thousands and thousands of dentists that spend money on marketing. They just don't know. They just don't know. And then they blame the front desk, this amazing people that are running what's going on? I made this beautiful ad, or sometimes they didn't even tell anybody that they pushed out an ad, and I'm sitting there like, what whitening? What implant? I don't know.
Right. I mean, we're spending right here to get your phone to ring these days, right? We've got to have a good website. We've got to have online reviews. We've got to have some direct mail. Social media is important because everybody is on social media all day long, right? Community events are important. It's not all about online. It's also about what you do in the community, how do you engage with them. There's pay-per-click that Google kind of introduced and made popular. Your Google listing is your map listing is important, whether it's on Google or even Yelp. Referrals, obviously, as you guys are the masters at this. Referrals, how do you get patients to refer to you? So there's all these different sources which gets your phone to ring, and you're trying, some of you are trying almost all of them to get that phone to ring. And again, why it's important, because if you know that, for example, that pay-per-click ads is driving the right type of patients, then you want to spend more money on that, right? Your allocation of marketing budget should be flexible enough to make changes to it on a weekly basis, on a daily basis sometimes. Like, man, this worked really well. So unless we test, right? Unless we know, we don't know what to do. And just blanket marketing no longer works anymore. What do you think? What do you think, Alex?
I totally agree with you. I've seen amazing offices spend tons of money the same way every year, thinking that it's working to the max. And, I'm getting 50 patients. Well, you are getting 50 patients, and we're not doing the right thing. We're looking at, anytime we talk about, how many new patients are you getting? And we're talking about, we're getting 50 new patients a month. But the question is, how many calls did you get?
right? And where they're coming from too, right? Because we want to know, because if we know exactly what drives what behavior, then we want to definitely spend that. One of the things we talk a lot about at Patient Prism is really following the money when it comes to figuring out where the patients are coming from. And really important, Google says it themselves, that it's very important for us to track every medium from which patients arrive at the doorstep. And using tracking numbers, they have been used for over 20 years now. Dentistry started using them about 10 years ago. Very, very important. And we assign that at Patient Prism. Obviously, we assign a tracking number to everything, everywhere you show up, whether it's a website, your Google AdWords, your Facebook, YouTube, whatever it is. We want to know exactly where that patient's coming from and what type of patient is coming from what type of medium. Sometimes, right, we ask the patients, right, hey, how'd you find us? And everybody says, I Googled you, right? But that's not adequate for us to know exactly where that patient came from. So use of tracking numbers, very, very important. There is a perception in the marketing community about use of tracking numbers and their impact on SEO. There is a right way of doing that, and there's a wrong way of doing that. So it's really important to make sure that we track, and what doesn't get tracked, what doesn't get measured, doesn't get improved or managed. And Peter Drucker said that, what, 30, 40 years ago. And we really believe that as soon as you figure out, man, this billboard number 1 is working really well for me, and billboard 2 and 3 are not working, and we only know that because somebody dialed a tracking number, we have incredible insight and to make some good decisions.
So let me ask you a question. So
Sure.
every time somebody starts marketing, who gets that tracking number? Is it the Patient Prism's job to provide them with a tracking number? Is it something that they do on their own?
Well, we provide that. The tracking number, number 1, the tracking number belongs to the practice. It doesn't belong to Patient Prism, or it should not belong to any tracking company, right? It should belong to you because it's your number. Number 1. Number 2 is a company like us. We designate those tracking numbers to everything that you're doing, and it's a matter of a 5-minute. It's usually in your local area code. We don't recommend using 800 numbers because it kind of gives the impression that you're this big old company that has 800 number. You want a local tracking number, and that's assigned to all your different platforms.
So we know exactly where these patients are calling from.
Correct, absolutely.
Even though people say Google.
Even though everybody says Google, right? Because it's the easy thing to say. And then what we do in our practice management system is we put Google, and then we don't have any more insight beyond that. One of the views we have taken, Alex, is going even deeper into the journey of the patient. We look at this thing. We've constructed this thing called the activity timeline. Is understanding how the patient found you online. Because a lot of patients we know today find us online, right? Most of them are searching for us on Google or whatever search engine they're using, and they're finding us. What we have found that was important was really understanding that journey before they called us, right? Let's look at this example here, right? We have 9:21 a.m. in the morning. A patient went in and typed the words "the near dentist" in their local geography, and basically landed on our page at 9:24, which talked about cosmetic dentistry. Wonderful. They spent a few minutes. Looks like they went away from their computer at 9:57. They came back to our web page, and they looked at the dental implants page of our website. And then, lo and behold, 3 minutes later, they looked at our locations, where our locations are, and then decided to call at 10:28. So almost an hour and 7 minutes later, when they first looked at the ad to see where they landed, and then the call duration is 4 minutes 23 seconds. So it's really important to know this journey, because if the patient doesn't end up scheduling this appointment, we know what to say to them. We'll go back and say, by the way, why did they not schedule? And obviously at Patient Prism, we'll give you the data on why not, but also indulge them in different conversation about, hey, if we have an amazing implant doctor at our office, and he can take great care of you. He's placed over 5,000 implants. We have this amazing implant system, and we have sedation options available. So you kind of can look at the behavior of the patient online before they called you and kind of make some critical decisions about how to communicate with them when you reach them back again after after they have not scheduled an appointment. So
that's exciting stuff.
It definitely is. We have lots of practices that use this very on a daily basis. Now they've called you, right? They've called us. What do we do, right? Let's go back to the basics. They've called our office, and we've heard this before, right? All the patient excuses that we think are excuses. First of all, we offer them a point that says it doesn't work with my schedule. Many patients say, "Is this going to hurt?" People are fearful of dentistry. We know that, having been in business for long. What's the price? Price and hurt is a concern. Now, do you offer something like a same day cleaning? Like sometimes they'll throw you off and ask something that we don't know how to exactly answer, because what we've learned over again 2 million calls is that the vocabulary of our patients is sometimes different than our vocabulary. And they will say, "I got a hole in my tooth." We don't use that as dental practitioners. We don't say we have holes in teeth, right? Or we have broken teeth. So sometimes it's important to realize what the vocabulary of the patient is so that we don't get startled when somebody says, "Oh, do you do same-day cleaning?" What does that mean? We don't have same-day stuff. Do you take my insurance? Or I'm just shopping around. These are some of the things that we hear as patient concerns, and we have to be aware of how to address them really, really effectively and confidently right off the bat. Anything else, Alex, that you've seen? Any other concerns that you've seen in over the years?
A million things people say. I have a hole in my head. That means that they have a missing tooth. I mean, you're 100% correct. We're speaking all kinds of, "Oh, there's a huge decay in your mouth,"
Right.
so yes, it's very important to understand what is it that they want from us.
Right, absolutely. I mean, the first thing, right? We're going to talk about this. What do you say, right? We don't want to say the wrong things. We don't want to say the wrong things, but you want to know what to say. The first thing we're going to address right off the bat is, do you take my insurance? Because obviously we know dental insurance is not the greatest around, but obviously it does pay for a certain amount and helps them make the treatment more affordable. It may not cover a lot, but at least it does that. So now, obviously, what do you not say, right? "Oh, do you take my insurance?" "No." And all of a sudden you're stopping them in their tracks, right? You don't want to say that. You don't want to say you don't take their insurance, because you're stopping the flow of the conversation, that preventing the patient from immediately, because now they're fearful of "Oh my God, this is going to cost me a lot." Instead, you want to say, right, "We've got a lot of patients of that type, and we'll be happy to file that claim for you. We deal with a lot of out-of-network patients, and we're used to filing claims for our patients." That's something that you want to immediately say. Another thing you want to say is that, "I can call your insurance company to confirm how your specific plan will work in our practice, and we've dealt with this before." Another thing we've seen effectively is you certainly want to make sure that they know that this is not going to be a surprise visit for them. So a lot of people don't like surprises. I don't like surprises. Most of us don't like, especially when it comes to money. So we want to say that we would make sure that we minimize your surprises. And if there is a gap between what your insurance covers and what you can afford, we've got some convenient options to help you fill that gap. Really, really important to say that. And again, to tell the patient, the important thing is we want to make sure that we get you the dental care that you called us about today, because you had a concern, you had something that we need to take care of, and that's more important. Let's go ahead and get you scheduled, right? That is the most important thing a receptionist should do, is getting that patient to commit, right? Once we get them to commit, they're less likely to kind of renege on that commitment, because we usually commit when we know, when we've decided that we need something that's important, right? Teresa Duncan came over to our studios, and I know, Alex, you know Teresa really well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. She's wonderful.
And Teresa wrote this amazing book called "Moving Your Patients to a Yes." and Teresa record almost 40 videos with us at Patient Prism Studios on these exact barriers about insurance. There's so many different ways to really overcome those insurance barriers. So I recommend definitely reading this book. Teresa is an amazing expert, and if you need at the end of the webinar, if you need some of the videos that we have recorded with Teresa to send you guys, we'll be more than happy to send you a few just to see how she talks about overcoming these hurdles. So the next question that we hear a lot from patients right off the bat is, how much will that cost? And obviously a lot of practitioners have told their receptionists not to discuss pricing on the phone. Great, but then sometimes we've heard this so many times that it's against our policy to give pricing over the phone. And again, you're slamming the brakes. You're slamming the brakes and saying, man, there's a trust issue right there, right? When we say it's against our policy, patients don't really believe us. So instead, we say, that's a common question, we understand, and we want to make sure that we can fit the cost of dental care within your budget. That's important, right? That's really, really important to say right off the bat. Or we want to say our goal is to always provide a high quality care at an affordable price, and then immediately say that our prices are comparable to other dentists in an area that offer the same quality of care. And it's really important because immediately they think about, okay, what does the next door person offer? So you want to make sure that emphasize high quality care. You want to also emphasize that you're competitive, but competitive doesn't mean cheap. Competitive means for the right type of quality, we are in line with everybody else in the area. Will you be using insurance is a good time to talk about this, because obviously we can immediately get their fears about cost reduced, because we know that insurance could cover a part of that. This is very interesting, right? If you talk to care credit executives across the country, and we know many of them, right, they will say that only if you offer this to the patients, only if you offer that option to the patients, more patients will decide to come in, and not only come in, but also accept treatment. A lot of times what we have seen in almost 80% of our clients who do have care credit or some sort of in-house financing do not mention that over the phone to let the patient know that this procedure could be as low as $49 a month or $99 a month. And it's so vital for us to say that because if we don't offer it, the patient thinks it's, again, a big number, and they don't know about this. They don't know about care credit. They're not going to ask you this question. Sometimes they don't even know that financing is even a possibility. Or if you have an in-house discount plan, and many of you guys do, you want to be able to easily explain that, hey, there's a membership plan we've got, it costs $200 a family, and that brings the cost of your cleaning down to $5, $25, whatever that might be. Really, really important to mention that. And we see this, Alex, we see this not being mentioned at all. Very few times, although most dental offices will have some sort of financing or in-house financing or care credit, some of that stuff in the offices.
It's typically the doctor's fault. Oh, we want to do care credit if it's the last resort.
Right.
Well, how do you know when your last resort is?
Correct. Correct.
Your phone call could be your last resort.
That is absolutely right. You're right, absolutely. And we want to make sure that, that's a big barrier and it's easy to do. And the economics always works in the doctor's favor to get care credit in there. Economics always works because the cost of acquisition is way more than what you would pay care credit.
There's no question. There's no question. We have about 3 minutes left before we go to a Q&A.
Well, the last point I want to say is, do you have anything sooner, right? And we say sometimes, oh my God, unfortunately, no, right? And we have that no thing. But we, again, instead of saying that, you want to make sure you confirm what the appointment is for, what the motive of the patient is. If the motive of the patient is emergency, then we want to make sure that we have something on our emergency schedule to schedule them in. If the motive is a high value case and we've got a big implant case, we want to make sure that we have systems and protocols in our place to accommodate those high value patients. No matter how busy our schedule is, we've got to have a flexible enough schedule, opportunities to be able to get emergent patients in the door as well as high value patients in the door. You want to make sure, if you can't absolutely make it, you want to tell the patient that we spend a lot of time with our patients, and to give you the quality, sometimes it's worth the wait. Really important, you want to reassure the patient if there is something that pops up earlier, that you will call them. And again, you want to be able to schedule the patient. Vitally important, number one job on the phone, get them scheduled.
Most of the time when we get these questions of, can you get me in sooner? What we don't realize is we don't know what the patient wants. We think that, oh my God, I have to place 2 implants and try to restore them, single visit dentistry, when they just want to be seen, take the x-rays, get a plan, and maybe come back tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Or maybe get a little antibiotic to start with, or however it is. But we really have to figure out that by bringing them in that same day, that we're going to have a lot more success. We look like we care, and they will be much more happy.
And people go by their time, right? They only have this much time in their schedule, and they've already called you guys. So you want to get them in the door, because they're going to call the second, whoever gets them in is going to get that patient. So we want to make sure that we don't lose them. The last point, I mean, we've seen this, is, you have a 5-minute conversation with a patient, and you explain everything, you do everything right, and the patient says, I'm going to call you back later. And all you do is, okay, that sounds good, thank you, and you hang up, right? You don't want to say that. You want to try to get them back in a last-minute ditch effort to say, I'm glad you called us today to let us know about what problem you're having, and would like to take care of you, to be able to help you, alleviate your pain, or give you that bridge that you need. So sometimes identifying what benefits the patient instead of how it benefits us. Really important to identify that at the very end when we're trying to make that last ditch effort to get this patient back. Sometimes we think we've answered all the patient questions, and it's important to ask them at the very end, if they're not scheduling, is there anything that I have not answered that you would like me to answer? At that time, it's a good idea to make some mental math in your brain, like, hey, did I make sure that I offered them financing? Did I offer them high discount plans? So really get the patient to give you some additional 30 seconds to talk about anything else that we may not have covered during the process. And then if all else fails, you still want to take their permission to see, may I call you back in a few days? And certainly that kind of opens, and if they say yes, then that goes on your list to call them back. At Patient Prism, we do this very interestingly. We combine artificial intelligence to really understand what the patient wants, and really identify and give you deep insights into, hey, in this case, the caller is concerned with pricing. Mention your affordable payment options. So now we're making it easier for offices to understand what exactly you should have said, the verbiage you should have said during that call, so that when you call the patient back, you know exactly what to say. And we've created the system that visualizes this, so that you don't have to think about it. You get this alert from us that looks like this, and it's like, man, we didn't mention insurance, we didn't mention financing with this, and so when we call the patient back, that's what we need to really offer. Rapid call analysis is something that we pride ourselves in, because the quicker you can realize what went wrong in the call. And look, I mean, we look at 17 different things in a phone conversation. We looked at, did you announce name, right? A lot of times, did you announce name before you asked what insurance they had? You want to know, right? All of a sudden, I'm calling, I'm Amol, I'm talking about it, and somebody asked me what insurance I have before even asking for my name. How am I going to build a rapport with this patient, right? So what we do is we look at these 17 different variables that you see on your screen, and really figure out, is there anything in these variables, if we didn't do them, was it that we have a free consultation, we didn't offer it to them? Was that the reason why the patient didn't schedule? Really important, deeper insight into conversations, we feel, help you understand what exactly went wrong in the conversation, so that we can, when we call that patient back, because our rapid analysis will tell you within 1 hour that, man, this is what we didn't do, this is what we need improvement in, so we can have a better conversation with the patient. You know, at the end of the day, how can you convert more callers, right? When you identify new ROI marketing opportunities and callers are coming in, you want to be able to call back the patients who didn't initially book and win them back. Really, really important thing at Patient Prism. When we can send those alerts out, you can increase your appointments by 22% on the second try. It's never been tried before, but we've been very successful at getting the offices to call back the patients and give them an additional incentive to come back. You want to reduce missed calls and calls on hold. Believe it or not, Alex, we see this so many times. On an average, sometimes 30% to 40% of patients, callers will go to voicemail during business hours.
Yes.
Right? It's a huge, huge issue. Sometimes patients are put on a big hold time, and that's a capacity issue, right? And not that we want to put them on hold. It's not the person receptionist's fault. It's that we just don't have enough lines or enough people at the front answering the phones. And nobody wants to be put on hold.
When it rains, it pours. It all happens at the same time.
Absolutely. You want to improve. You want to convert more callers. You want to improve your team call handling skills. And call handling skills don't get improved by going every once in a while to a conference and coming back. You want to be continuously learning those skills as they come across. You want to increase your team's knowledge and confidence absolutely at all times, because patients intuitively can know whether you know this stuff or not. They will easily judge whether you're smiling on the phone, whether you know whether they instantly know how to answer a complex question. And really, that kind of covers our conference. I wanted to make sure that we leave enough time for the audience to ask any questions. And Alex, if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them right off the bat.
Well, Jonathan, let's start with what the audience is asking. And there are several people that are registered as front desk. So I don't know exactly who is asking the questions, but let's start from there. But while we're looking at that, I really want to stress the importance of the knowledge that you guys get by not only recording these phone calls, because recording phone calls, like, that's nothing new, but literally understanding what the patient said, and then it becomes, hey, I know they said that, you know, they need a tooth extracted, but did we ask if it hurts?
Right.
You know, I know they said that they need an implant done, but did we ask if they have looked at options for payments? You know, because they're asking all these important, they're saying things, but they don't know what to really actually say, you know. And then you have these people that are panicking, like, oh my God, my world is coming to an end. I can't chew on my right side and everything else like that. So, Jonathan, can you start with the questioning?
Yeah. So right out of the gate here, towards the end, you mentioned that 30 to 40% of callers go to voicemail during the day. When it comes to putting patients on hold, do you recommend like telephone advertising for a hold system? If so, how much do you both think that a practice should budget for that?
Well, budget, I don't know, but I think if you have to put them on hold, then the message better be about the office, about the team, about the doctor, that reassures them that, you know, our doctor has been practicing in this area for over 2 decades, and our patients are so happy with us. Maybe a testimonial from a patient that has said some nice things. So again, what you're doing is you're building some social proof during that call, and maybe a hygienist or an assistant talking about how we love our patients. That's what you want, instead of just plain hold music. So it's not that costly to get that kind of system accomplished, but that's what you would want to do when they're on hold. But you don't want to put them on hold for, hopefully not longer than 30 seconds. But sometimes I know it gets very busy.
So, Amol, what I like about some of the things that you say is we need a champion in every office that is going to be responsible for these new patient calls, regardless. So nobody should be on hold. And when I listen to on hold messages, I typically get, well, we have a $29 whitening special, we have this, we have that. You already marketed to bring them in, so I 100% agree to talk about how compassionate we are and how amazing the doctor is. Now, the doctor can never say, I am Dr. Judy Mojito and I am the best doctor in the world, but, we can say that we have the best doctor in the world and she's very compassionate and she's doing this and that. So if you have to put them on hold, make sure that your message is not another marketing message. And if you have to, really, if you're spending any type of money on marketing, and typically we see 5 to 10%.
Right.
And so we have $1 million practice that is going to spend $100,000 on marketing. Let's get somebody that is going to say, I will take all those calls, no matter if I'm in the middle of an insurance verification, no matter if I'm doing something else and everything else like that. Unless you have a patient in front of you, everything needs to be dropped for that new patient, because we're actually spending a lot of our hard-earned money, and we want to make sure that we convert it and we get our ROI.
One quick thing about putting patients on hold, we recommend that you get the name of the patient and ask their permission. I said, may I put you on hold? And I have your name and contact number in case we get disconnected. Super important, because in case sometimes you don't come back and they hang up, you want to be able to call them back. So you want to ask their permission, get their name and contact information, and tell them that, we'll be right back with them.
Or no matter who calls, no matter what time, if they're not a patient of record, that's the first thing that we want to do, is get their name and telephone number, and maybe not even ask their permission to put them on hold, but when would be a convenient time for us to call you back? Is it okay? So people don't mind that at all. I know that I make a lot of phone calls and somebody assures me that they're going to call me back. Just make sure you call them back. But if you have to put them on hold, make sure in case somebody picks up and like, oh, yes, is this the insurance company that I was talking to? No, and click, and then like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. And we just wasted a whole bunch of time and money on somebody that is calling us, because there's different types of leads, right? When we're talking about any type of a lead generation, it's the most difficult part to get somebody to call us. That's the whole thing. So when somebody's calling us, they're interested in something. And the way we're going to handle them is the way we're going to know if it works or not. And it's okay to lose some people sometimes, but we need to know why and get better of not doing it. So when you say 22% of the patients that we missed something with actually schedule, those numbers are astounding, depending on your new patient flow. If you're getting 22 additional patients, if you're typically getting 100, what is the value of them?
It's nuts, actually. Well, we've done case studies on this and the impact on the top line, because we know, right, at a certain point, the value of each additional patient, when you've met your fixed cost, and Fred Joel talks about in his book Becoming Remarkable, is what called escape velocity, is that the addition to profit for each new patient after you met your fixed cost is like 70%.
Yeah.
Right? So every $1,000, you're making $70 in profit because you met your basic fixed costs.
Absolutely. And that's really exciting. So what other question do we have? And if we didn't answer your question the way that you wanted to, you can absolutely ask it again.
I thought this was a really good one. So let's say you've engaged with an individual on the phone and you feel like you're about to get them on the books, and then they hit you with, I'm busy, but I need care. Can I call you back with insurance information? A red flag kind of goes up. They're probably not going to call back, or it's going to be difficult. How do you re-engage them in the conversation and schedule that individual when they don't have their insurance info, they know they need care, they're kind of on the fence?
Well, what you want to do is make sure that you tell them that we're, patients love us, we love new patients, we want to schedule you. So get something on the schedule and try to get them to book an appointment, even if it's a little further on, and you tell them that in that process we'll call your insurance company and get everything so that's one thing, right? But absolutely, as I said earlier, they're not willing to commit at all, just ask their permission if you could call them back, and do that, like follow that up in a couple of days to see whether their needs have been addressed. A lot of times what we've seen is when a doctor's office or dental office calls the patients proactively, it creates an unbelievable amount of goodwill in their mind that, these people care and they called me and they truly care about my health. And that's really important to do. So you try to get them scheduled, as even if it's further in the point, I say we have something available next week, end of next week, or the beginning of the following week, and we'll get you there, and then we'll coordinate with your insurance company to make sure that everything is good.
I'm happy with that.
Amol, do you coach staff on calls when you see that there is need for improvement?
What we do is very unique, right? So every new patient call that does not book or schedule, we send out with that alert that you saw earlier. We send out 2 or 3 short, less than 1 minute or less than 2-minute videos that specifically address the training issue that was relevant to that call. So, for example, a patient calls in and is very anxious, right? And very fearful about that. You will, when you get an alert from us, you will see a short video on how to deal with anxious patients. If there was a caller that was clearly price shopping, Fred Joyle did 2 videos with us on how to handle patients who are clearly price shopping. So our coaching is instantaneous, and it's within 1 hour. You're going to know exactly what to say within a very short period of time. We know there's not enough time in the day to do any more things than what we already do in a dental office. So the coaching is from key opinion leaders like Fred Joyle, from Linda Miles, and many, Teresa Duncan, Judy Kay, a lot of these amazing consultants that have come into our studio and recorded short snippets of how you could address that particular problem that occurred on that phone conversation.
Without having to get involved with a whole bunch of different types of training. And that's how you actually train and coach everybody, but not in general, specifically to what you have basically found out. Now, I know typically that it would take 24 to 36 hours for somebody to go through this call, to find out where the thing is, before they can even get back to you. And you're saying you can do this in 1 hour, within an hour, that you will get back to the customer of Patient Prism that with all the coaching that they need for that particular call.
Correct. And then the key thing is that you get that information in an hour, and then we know, right? We know office managers out there or front desk, there's not enough time to listen to the conversation. So we don't even make you listen to it. All you got to do is look at the visual map, and within 5 to 15 seconds, you know exactly what happened, where we were not optimal in that process, and what we could do to fix it. And then quickly watch the video.
Patient Prism or somebody at the office?
Somebody at the office understands that. So Patient Prism sends that alert, and you get to see a visual alert that shows you what went wrong, what went right, and how you can fix it.
So typically we get questions of like, we understand all of this, and everybody's been in the new patient business forever and ever and ever, some better, some not. But is it just new patients that we're looking for, or is it possible that we're going to be doing marketing for specific cases? I mean, marketing is marketing. It costs $1,000 a page, and then whatever you put onto it as real estate, that's going to be up to you. So, we're talking about new patients, but what if I'm a dentist that I'm looking for sleep apnea cases? What if I'm a dentist that is looking for implant cases, Invisalign cases? What if I'm looking for something that is going to bring me more than just, hey, I'm a new patient that moved into the area and saw you here, or anything else like that? Is that something that you can actually filter through as well?
Yes, it's a great question. One of our second patents here is we look at conversational keywords that patients speak. So, for example, you'll know exactly in our platform how many patients called your office in the last week or last month that were looking for sleep apnea, or they were in pain, or they needed root canals, or they needed dentures. And what you're able to do is, going into the program, able to see how successful we were in booking those specific type of patients. Also, that data gives you, for example, you've got a sleep campaign going on, or a dentures campaign going on, and you're spending some money. When you look at that one report that we provide called the Keyword Cloud, it shows you that, oh my God, only 2 patients in the last 3 months have called me with that specific thing. I can go back to my marketing and saying, guys, we're spending a good amount of money. We've got this beautiful website. We've got SEO. We've got all these ads popping up. Why are only 2 patients talking about this? So really, when you get a conversational insight and intelligence into what people want, you can correlate that to how effective you are in driving those particular type of patients in your office, but also look at marketing and seeing, is marketing driving these type of patients in my practice in the first place?
And so you and I just recently spoke about somebody who's spending a whole bunch of money on Invisalign campaigns, and we realized that they only got 1 patient out of it. Correct. So they spend $20,000. So they need to tweak their marketing, I guess. If it's not somebody at the front desk that is taking the calls or anything else like that, just not getting those type of calls. And that's something that we all should know.
Absolutely. And then sometimes you will know from our insight report, which says, somebody said, hey, I want clear correct, or I want clear braces. And sometimes the vocabulary, as I said earlier, the vocabulary of the patient is different than what we're used to. And if somebody doesn't understand at the front, that's a training issue, right? That clear braces means Invisalign, or clear correct also means Invisalign. Whatever you're providing, it doesn't matter what it is, but you have to be able to understand that vocabulary to say that, hey, absolutely, we've got a great program, and it can help you with straightening your teeth.
Okay. So I know that we have a whole bunch of questions now that are coming in, and folks, we're going to try to get to as many questions as possible, but expect an email from us with answers to the rest of the questions that we have here, and we're definitely going to continue. So Jonathan, what's the next question that we have?
I love this one. I think this one's right up your alley as well, Alex. Patient has not been into the practice for, say, 1 to 2 years, and they give a call. What are some good, solid, engaging questions that will get them back in through the door?
Where the hell have they been? My big question is, what has changed in our practice? What new technology did we get? What new procedures did we learn? What is important to this patient? Why have they just not gone? So I've been doing this for 25 years, and I've seen patients not come in for 5 years, but they also have not been cheating on you with another dentist. They just have not come in. And maybe you told them 5 years ago that they need certain things, and now they're saying, wow, the doctor really had a crystal ball. He and she told me exactly what's going to happen. I just didn't have money at the time. So RevenueWell helps you with a lot of different things when it comes to patient reactivation. And we can coach you up on many different things that you have had happen in your practice in the last year or 2. But Amol, do you have any training videos on I haven't been in a year or 2 and what needs to be done? Besides that, we know that they probably need some kind of a prophy growth debridement or a perio maintenance. They probably need all these different things. But should we talk about that prior to them coming in? And should we ask a question, do you have insurance? If you're an insurance-driven practice, knowing that their preventative appointments are not going to cost them anything out of their pocket and things like that, or if they've gotten insurance, or what changed?
Well, one of the things we talk about in totality is that over the phone, our job at the reception level is to turn a stranger into a friend, right? And building that trust with them. So when they call, it's really important to not make them feel guilty about not doing this for a long time, right? Not somehow, not like, oh my God, we can't believe you haven't showed up in so long. But but also telling them you miss them. Alex said the really nice thing is kind of educate them on some of the new things that have happened, technology wise, and kind of get them excited about coming back. You have no idea. We bought this amazing digital X-rays, and we've got some new technology in the office. If you started something new, we've got a great whitening promotion right now that all patients you can qualify for. So kind of give them some sort of a carrot to get them, make them feel good about that they have called and they made the decision to do that. Tell them that you missed them. If you can figure that out, that they haven't called in a long time, and basically just again treat them like a new patient. Treat them that this is a stranger who you're trying to befriend and trying to make them into your friend. And that's again, it's basic as basic as it may sound, it works.
It's the little things that make a big difference. I'm holding up a shirt, but my thing is not in mirror mode. But it says people before profits, and in the back it says patient prism.
Yeah.
Why? Why? We're in a business for profit. This is not a nonprofit organization. Why is that your statement?
It's a quote that came from my grandmother, and she early on when I was facing some financial challenges, when I was building in the midst of a financial crisis, my firm was kind of, we're losing a bunch of customers because people were going bankrupt. And what my grandmother told me was that you've got to think about solving, you got to put your clients first, you got to put your people first. And in dentistry is so much like that. Every team member that I have talked to in dentistry wants to make a difference in their patients' lives, right? So when you have that mindset where you're putting people first and you are absolutely aligned with their oral health and their overall health, right? You're going to do everything that is in the best interest of the patient. You're going to earn their trust, and profits are going to just follow. And that philosophy has worked so well in my business career. We've always cared about our clients, our team members, and we've said we're going to do everything in our power to make an impact. If we cannot make a positive impact, then maybe we're not the right people for that. But putting people first. Now, whether obviously we want to put our team members first, we want to treat them with kindness and respect. We want to treat our patients with compassion and respect, and then it doesn't become about selling, right? I think selling is not a bad word when you're moving somebody from a position that they were in that's inferior to superior, right? Selling is not a bad word. When we're moving our patients from bad health to good health, when we're moving them to bad smiles to good smiles, it impacts their lives. And when we believe that, right, when we truly believe that, it has positive outcomes for everybody in the industry. So people before profits all the way.
Awesome. There's a question from Rob Hayes. Would you mind reading that, Jonathan? And by the way, Rob Hayes is a very good friend of mine out of KC, who I'm going to see next week.
Well, then I will read it verbatim. What's the best practice for catching missed calls? Maybe an external call service, an automated phone system out there where you have pick one for Susan and two for the exceedingly handsome Alex Nudel, etc.
Well, as much as possible, you want to be able to, you want a human to pick up a phone, right? Sometimes it's not possible, especially after hours. You want to have at least some service that can provide a good experience on the phone. We've seen phone trees work well as long as they're done properly. Press one if you're a new patient, and then triage that properly so that it goes to the right person, either answering service or some place where you have a higher priority for that. But again, my recommendation is if the call goes to voicemail, it's very, very difficult to get that patient back. As much as possible, yes. So after hours, before hours, if you have an answering service that picks up the phone and kind of gets them in the pipeline, that's ideal. From a phone tree perspective, optimizing that phone tree to have only a few options and very quick handoff is crucially important.
So RevenueWell has gotten involved with the phone system. We have the RevenueWell phone. And when you're talking about phone tree, what I found out is a lot of people don't understand what a phone tree is. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's a way of mapping your calls. If a person calls, let's find out who they are and what the next step should be. And so RevenueWell absolutely has that option. Rob Hayes and everybody else who's listening to is to convert your existing phone system that you're already paying money for calls and the whole 9 yards into a voice over IP system, where then you can use the app to build out exactly what you want, and that is included in there. So that's really exciting, and we'll be more than happy to send information to everybody on that as well.
And that's where it's at today. Voice over IP is where it's at. It's an immensely powerful phone system. Thank you for giving me a tour of that at the Chicago Midwinter meeting this time.
Yeah. You and I, we just meet in all kinds of cool places. Let's see how we're doing on time. So we're at 2:01. Give us a couple more questions.
Yeah, I was going to say, we've got a couple more, so if we can probably round them out.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And for those of you who got your stuff, you can drop off, because we're still going to send you information on what people ask, because sometimes you just don't know what to ask.
Okay. When dealing with strictly insurance-based patients, how do you manage your schedule after they cancel? And how do you kind of prevent that type of communication when they first confirm and then pull a cancellation at the last minute?
That's a big question. No-shows are an issue in dentistry, and nobody's really found an answer on how to do it. Just double booking everybody is not the answer. And so really, unless there is some tools available in the future, you've got to look at the characteristics of people who cancel, and kind of look at some variables that lead to those characteristics. Is it the AR balance? Is it so come up with like 5 variables that you think are common among people who have canceled in the last year, and see that if somebody owes you more than $600, what is the probability of them canceling an appointment on you, and look at this stuff. So without going through data analysis, I would make a list of all the patients that have canceled and do some rudimentary analysis on, is there any underlying theme of people who do cancel, and see if you can predict that somebody will not show up. It's not scientific. I think somebody will develop a solution in the near future that will help you predict that. But I really would definitely read Teresa's book for tips and ideas. She has some amazing tips on how to deal with this, even better than I can say.
So no-shows are as old as dentistry. I think the first ever dental patient never made it. We do have a solution for that. So typically, new patients, when they don't show up, there's many, many reasons. So what we've looked at is we have RevenueWell forms. And patients that fill out forms, number one, are a lot more likely to come in. We're actually seeing 98% of the patients that actually take time to fill out forms online, they will make it. We can also send forms to patients that have not been for a little while to go ahead and update your medical history, go ahead and update all the different things that you may need, insurance information, stuff like that. That's number one. Number two, if it's a new patient that just doesn't show for whatever reason it is, or calls you last minute and say, hey, I have a major situation here. I have nobody to pick up my little doggy from the groomers, so I'm going to no-show on you. Well, we can mark that patient, and we'll have another webinar on that, and you can actually ask a question of how to do it, and we'll send you a little video on that. We can mark a patient as a no-show inside practice management softwares. We can attach it to code to them, and so we can actually literally start a procedure of doing a follow-up, whether, again, starting a new marketing campaign to those patients that have not shown, or sending them emails of the importance of coming into a patient. If it's an existing patient and they're on perio maintenance, we would send them information on that and why they should come in every 3, 4, 6 months versus healthy mouth patients. So we can absolutely go and attack it, but we at least need to see what is the reason why they're not doing it. A lot of times we have strict instructions for all the awesome people at the front desk that nobody leaves without a future appointment.
Right.
And then we also tell the patient, oh, well, the patient says, I'm not really sure that I can schedule and stuff like that. And we'll say, well, let's put you onto the books, and then we'll let you know a month before, and we'll figure it out when it gets closer. So that could possibly be stopping you from having a lot of fun. There's a lot of no-shows because of the way you pressured people in, or they're not exactly sure of the importance of making their appointment, and how most of the practices that are private, we actually sit and wait for them, right? We have a good schedule. We never want to run late. I mean, sometimes we do, but we have to figure out how we put them onto the schedule, and are they sold 100% prior to letting them off the phone? Because if there's anything that needs to be dealt with, I'd rather deal with it prior to. Double booking doesn't work because it's bound to happen to where everybody's going to come in, and then you're running around like a chicken without a head. And what do we really need? If you talk to most of the dentists, they rather see 2 patients a day. One in the morning for a $5,000 case, one in the afternoon for a $5,000 case. So we got to find out what is it that we have going on. And we've had problems to where we're saying, you know, we would love to make sure that everybody's waiting for you, and maybe take a little booking, not a fee, but to schedule this type of an appointment, we're going to be spending an hour and a half with you. We need a reservation fee or something like that. So it depends on the office itself, but there are many different ways of dealing with it. But Amol, you said it correctly. We need to know the why behind it. Why? Why are these people not showing? Is it us, or is it them, or is it a combination?
There's lots of ways, and there's lots of ways you can do to make them. And RevenueWell obviously is a phenomenal tool to kind of reactivate them. Especially when you know what the reason for those cancellations were. Sometimes it's just it's the silly little things like they have a car problem, or they sometimes there's cultural differences in how people of certain cultures will never say no, and they will book the appointment anyway. So you've got to figure out what the reason is, and if you can, then you will reduce the number of no-shows.
So in New York, there was a doctor, great doctor, and he recorded a video. And so he's a very large Italian man. He put in a pinstripe suit, a hat, and a white tie, and he tells these people, listen, we understand you have all kinds of difficulties getting here, but don't you know we know where you live? And Joey is on the way to pick you up. If you can beat him to the office, no vig for you. And it's everywhere else in the world, people were like, oh my God, that is the most rudest thing that you can ever do. It works like a charm. People will walk in laughing, I beat Joey, you know, let's go. It all depends on where you are in the country and who you are as a person. But in RevenueWell, we have a save the date reminder. And in that save the date reminder, we encourage everybody to train their patients. And the way that I train our patients, and I say that, you know, when you're scheduling an appointment, you're the most important person in our life for that hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it is. And it's really important that you make it, and don't even give them an option if you can't.
Great. Any more questions?
Yeah, we've got these two go together, so I'm going to give them to you. When you reactivate a patient, let's say they've been away from your practice, they haven't come in 2 years, do you consider them a returning patient or a new patient? And that goes along with, you know, you're kind of pitching them on all your new services and features within your practice. Is there any concern that they're going to think things are more expensive, and then like it's going to be a deterrent for them to come back in?
This is an Alex Nudel question.
So here's the way that I look at it. Figure out in your practice, between your whole entire team, of what does an active patient look like? So in our practice, it's 18 months. If the patient has not been in 18 months, we do consider them as a new patient. When we talk about technology in our office, the ability to save them time in doing things single visit. When we talk about we have better diagnostics, we also talk about that technology allows us to save you money because we're a lot more predictable in what we're going to do. We can do things faster. We don't need to bring you in twice. That means we don't have to do all the stuff that we normally do. People don't realize that it costs about $30 to set up a room. So when I talk about technology in our practice, I talk about that we got this technology for many different reasons. One of them is that we can save you time and money.
Right.
Well, gentlemen, I believe that's it. I don't know, Amol, if you want to scroll over to the last page on your presentation so everybody can see your contact info one final time for Patient Prism. I thank you both. Give it to y'all to sign us off here.
Yeah, so anybody that has any other question, anybody that wants to get any type of a video, anybody that wants to get more information on how you can test it in your practice and everything else like that, I know that Amol sent me a text message saying that he's really excited to work with the RevenueWell customers and that he's going to, with Beth, together. Him and Beth are going to put together a great promotional deal for everybody to be able to literally dive in and find out if you're spending money on marketing, and even if it's $2,000 a month, which is it's very cheap, but it'll be worth to install this program to find out what's working and how to increase. Because literally, Amal, the way you and I calculate this, one patient can pay for the system for the whole year.
Cool.
So that's something that people should not have a fear of. On top of my marketing budget, do I put this on? The answer is always yes, because you need to know if things are working, and I'll give you the last words, Amal.
Absolutely. And we are going to be upfront with you when you call us and schedule a demo with us. When you go to patientprism.com, schedule a demo. We will analyze your practice. We'll understand the call flow. We will look at your phone system and let you know that whether this is the right solution for you or not. For most of you guys, it is going to be, but for some of you, it may not be. But we're here to help. We're here to make an impact on the industry that we deeply care about. We deeply care about doctors. We care about team members. And what we've done through Patient Prism Academy is created a whole mechanism for team members, really everybody in the team, to reach the next level of knowledge and education and empowerment. Because at the end of the day, all of us want to be better versions of ourselves, right? Every single day. And we want to feel better about ourselves. And we have a unique opportunity, especially as dental team members, to make such a lasting and meaningful impact on people's lives. And if we can be participants in that, in your journey to make patients' life better, then we're here for you. So contact us either way. Email me, email all of our team members. They're very passionate about making a difference. And thank you so much, Alex and Jonathan, for giving us this opportunity to be on this webinar. And we look forward to meeting many of you guys at shows or on future webinars. Thank you again.
Great job, Amal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. And thank you for viewing. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Jonathan, please let us know when you're stopped recording and when you're stopped broadcasting. All right, Amal, I'll reach out to you in a little bit.
Perfect.
Fantastic job. I'm jumping off.
Thank you again. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
to exit out.